So just take your time to settle into this time to practice. Make any little last adjustments you want. Feel like you could stay easily for a while wherever you are. Take some slower, deeper belly breaths. Just do a little scan of your body if there's any obvious areas of tension that can relax. Just a brief check in with your shoulders and neck, arms and hands. All of your upper body. And all of your lower body. And today, just real simple, we'll focus on self-care and nourishing ourselves and just doing movements and moving in ways, practicing in a way that feels nourishing for you. It might be being gentler, might be a little more active, but just focusing on what feels sort of comforting, calming, grounding, relaxing. And one of the quickest ways to do that is with a little bit longer exhales. So we can do that throughout the practice of just emphasizing your exhales to be a little bit longer than the inhales. And as always in yin, staying low to the ground. So wherever you are, we'll start to transition to just be on the back with no props. And on your back, hug your knees in, massaging your back left to right on the floor. Some simple, comforting kind of movements here. And let your knees come back to center and one hand on each knee as you inhale, press your knees forward, arching your back. And when you exhale, pull your knees in, rounding your back. Just a few times forward and back with your breath. And we'll come back in and happy baby pose. Hold outside of your feet or shins, and you could stay still or just gently move side to side, maybe extend one leg at a time. And back to center with your feet together, down to your mat. So supine bound angle pose. Feet are together, knees are apart. Laying on your back here. And your arms can be overhead. You could have a hand on your belly, hand on your heart, whatever is comfortable for you. We'll have some time to open up all areas of the hips, front, back, and sides, starting here with the inner hips. And these relaxed breaths throughout the class today, these slightly longer exhales. And now bring the knees back together. And any version of pigeons, you can do right ankle over left thigh here on your back and grab your left thigh or shin. Or you can come up to a different version of pigeon if you want. But something to open the outer right hip here. Imagine you can bring your breath right into your outer right hip. So you exhale, you're softening tension there. Now, when you're ready, we'll go to the other side. Same thing. Left side pigeon. Imagine you can breathe right into wherever you feel the stretch here in the outer left hip, softening on the exhales. Now we'll let that go and again, both feet down and not down to your back if you're not there already. So you roll over onto your right side. Your either your right hand supporting your head or your right arm. We'll make some circles of the left hip in all directions here. Moving the joints, always a good thing to do daily. And now have your left knee come to the floor in front of you. And right knee bends to grab your foot. Starting to open the front of the hip here. And a few options. You could extend your left leg. You could have your hand under your head instead of your arm. You can turn your hips a little more or less towards the floor. Find the spot that feels best for you. And some relaxed breaths. Hold and breathe here. And sometimes it's just a slight turn or a slight angle can make a big difference to find where the pose is for you today. We all wake up with tensions or build tensions in different areas. That's inevitable, but keeping the tension is not always something that has to happen. You can find those tensions day by day and sort of work out the kinks in the body and move with a little more ease. And we'll start to transition here to let that go and come down to your stomach in a Sphinx pose. Elbows under shoulders, or maybe just slightly forward from your shoulders. And let your belly and hips just sink down, relax to the floor. You can let your head hang down as well. If you want to make any little movements in your shoulders or neck, you can do that. And I'll transition onto your left side. I'll do the same little movements here. Starting with the hip circles, right hip in all directions. And now right knee to the floor in front of you. Left knee bends to grab the foot. And any of those variations, you might extend your right leg. And always with these quad stretches, you want to make sure you feel the sensation more in your quadriceps, the front of your thigh and your left leg, and not in the knee. So if you feel it in the knee, you can always let go of the foot, use a strap, or do less. And we'll hold here a few breaths. And now we'll let this go and transition over to the stomach again on Sphinx pose. This one will hold a little longer so you can stay elbows under shoulders. You could move your arms more forward. You could have props under your chest and be supported to stay in the shape. So any of these versions is good. We'll stay here a little bit. Main thing here is you just don't want to feel like it's all in your lower back. It's more like a continuous, smooth line, steady incline from your hips up to your shoulders and not all in the low back. And now start to transition from there. You're using props. Move that to the side. And we'll bring the hands slightly off the mat, tented fingers, to do this motion where you inhale, center, lift your heart. Exhale, turn to one side. Opposite elbow comes forward. So we'll just move with the breath a couple of times, inhaling up, exhaling to turn. Next side you come to, we'll stay there for a moment. Hold there. And then we'll go over to the other side, same thing. And back to center, up to hands and knees. And any movements for your spine, hips, and shoulders that feels good for you. Again, moving in a way that feels nourishing. And back to the hands and knees, we'll have the right leg extend back for this calf stretch. So you want to make sure your foot is on your mat, so you've got a little resistance and grip there. So you can push into your foot and back into your heel, stretching right calf. Could emphasize this a little more. It's about as active as we get in yin, but you can lift your hips like halfway to down dog. That can help you get more into the right calf there. And keep that same general shape. Just slowly start to bend your knee, getting into the soleus, deeper calf muscle. And slowly come back all the way to the hands and knees. We'll go to the other side. Same thing. Starting with that calf stretch, which might turn into like a half down dog, focusing on the calf. And slowly bending your left knee. Everything else stays the same. So you can feel a different stretch. It's deeper calf muscle. And all the way back down to the hands and knees. Down to sitting for Janu Shirshasana, or head to knee pose. Left foot to your right thigh. Right leg extends out. Find a little length in your spine. And then fold over your leg any amount. Now here you could use props. One that's really nourishing and more restorative is to make a little bridge with your blocks and the bolster and just lay onto that. So any version of this, if you feel that's easy, you can always just scoot the whole thing forward and rest onto there. We'll have some time to hold here. If you feel any pain in your low back, you can always focus on sitting up taller and just hinging at your waist. And if you want to get more stretch into your upper back, you could always bend the knee and grab your foot and let your upper back round more. There's always lots of variations of poses, so do what feels nourishing for you today in this version of the pose. Now we'll slowly transition to the other side, same thing. Any variation here? And of course, you can always adapt and change halfway through the pose if you want to do different variations, slightly different angle. If your mind is wandering, you can always come back to just noticing your breath, slightly longer exhales today. And now we'll start to sit back up here. And we'll go into deeper variations of these hip openers. So one of the things we get to do in yin is go into these deeper poses. So first option, if you don't want to go super deep today, you can have your feet together, knees apart in bound angle. Or you can come up to frog pose. So we have knees on the mat. It's important because it's a lot of pressure on the knees and knees wide apart here. So you can always put a blanket under your knees too for extra padding. And then the key is to not move your hips forward down to your belly, but to keep your hips in line with your knees and also not to go back like child's pose. Those variations might feel good for you. You could do that. But generally, frog pose, we keep the hips in line with the knees, down to hands or elbows. And maybe your knees slowly open a little wider as you stay. But this is a pretty vulnerable spot. So if you feel like it's too much, and it probably is, you can always just come out and do a little less. It's better to be more in this like 60 to 80% of your range, not 100%. But we slowly expand that 60 to 80% over time. Your toes and feet might be pointed straight back or out to the sides. That's going to depend on your bone structure. So there's no one right way to do that. And again, if it feels like too much in frog, you can always do a wide knee child's pose or seated bound angle. Just a couple more breaths here. Equally important that we do strengthening stuff too in our other classes, and especially the vinyasa. We do strengthening for all these muscles too. But this is our time for more passive flexibility and go of tension throughout the whole body, not just in the area we're focusing on. Now, slow and controlled to come out of pose and eventually to sitting to work on a double pigeon pose as a deeper outer hip opener. So for this one, we'll either have the right shin crossed in front of the left or right shin stacked on top of the left. If you do that, to make sure your knee is not coming up. So if it does, you just scoot it out a little bit to the side. That will help take some pressure off the knee. But ideally, you get the ankle over knee, knee over ankle without any pulling on the knee. So some version of this double pigeon, starting with a tall spine, sit bones connect to the ground, and then start to walk your hands out. Maybe you bring your forehead to a block or progressively lower that block over time. And as always, it might just be a slight angle or variation where you find this is giving you the most of this passive outer hip stretch. And just notice if there's any extra tension that you don't need in your face or your shoulders that can relax you. We're training the nervous system to be calm even when it's uncomfortable, to respond to stress with non-reactive, calm presence. And then we'll slowly transition back up to go to the other side. Same thing, but usually one side's a bit tighter, so it might look different on this side. And we'll slowly start to transition back up to sitting. Now, going deeper into the front of the hips. So, can work on hero pose here. And I'll just say, if for any reason that you know that's not going to work, you can just go down to your back and do the version where you just grab one foot at a time, laying on your back. But if you want to work on hero, you can start with having a block between your feet, sitting your hips down to a block right between your feet. Just to get in that sort of position. And then if that feels easy for you today, you can take the block away and hips down between your feet. If you start to feel any pulling on your knees, stop here, and that's totally fine. Better to be able to practice again tomorrow than to force it. If you feel okay there, your hips touch the ground, start to move your hands down behind you, elbows down. Maybe you stop there. If your knees start to pull off the ground, stop there. If your knees stay down, you can go down to your shoulders, or your head and then your shoulders on your back. And if your shoulders are down, no pain in your knees, you can bring your arms overhead, hold opposite elbows in supine hero. So the idea here, wherever you are, is most of the sensation is in your quadriceps, not your knees. The front of your thighs are getting the stretch. Yeah, that's good, Cynthia, just like that. And we'll hold here a little bit. So if you're doing the hero with both legs, and stay there as long as that works for you. You need to come out anytime you can. And Cynthia, when you're ready now, you can switch to the other leg. If you're just doing one leg, yeah. So we can't stay with this one too long because it's pretty intense. Just a little bit here. And now slowly transition with control, the same way you came in. Come back out. Eventually to sitting with your legs straight out in front of you. And here, either folding over straight legs or bring your legs out wider like a 90-degree angle and fold over that way. So either one of these, whatever you want to work on today. Straight legs ahead is more focused on the hamstrings. You can always bend your knees as well. And you can always use props too. We are going deeper, but we're also focused on doing what's nourishing and feels good for you today. Takes about 40 to 90 seconds to increase flexibility. And unfortunately, we lose it within 4 days. Our bodies lose flexibility quite quickly. It takes about 2 weeks to lose strength. So we keep our strength for a while. We need that to survive more than we need flexibility usually. So if we're sitting a lot, it gets a little compounded. So it's about 40 to 90 seconds every few days at least of these stretches, and we can see steady maintenance of flexibility and even increasing flexibility. About 5 days a week is plenty. Any more is not really necessary. 5 days a week of stretching is about the ideal to increase flexibility steadily over time. We'll stay here a little while. So beyond the physical part, there's the energetics of just being present in the body, softening tension. we'll start to transition from here slowly back to sitting. And we'll just go to a comfortable seated posture, Sukhasana. Bring your right hand over to your right and left arm overhead in a side bend, which might feel nice after forward fold for a while. And any variation of this, hold here. A little twist to bring your left hand to your right knee and your right hand towards your back. So just kind of turning more to your right. A little bit of lift in your heart, just it's like your spine starts to unfurl, taller spine, rotating to your right. Now keep your hand on your knee, but the hand that sort of you're leaning on, bring that into a side bend. So your right arm goes overhead like a side bend as you're holding on to the other knee. It's a different angle of a side bend here. Or rotation. Find where that feels good for you. Now bring your right hand to your left knee. So you got this X shape with your arms. Round your back, away from your knees. Now we'll just come back up to sitting and go over to the other side. Left arm over to your left. Right arm overhead, starting with the side bend here. And now bring your right hand to left knee. Left hand behind you. So you get a little taller in your spine. And then turn towards your back to your left. Now the side bend here. So your left arm goes overhead, holding onto your knee. With the right hand still. And hold this position, the side bend here. Now left hand to your right knee. X shape with your arms, round your back away from your knees. And just come back to sitting and start to circle your shoulders, move your neck any way that you like here. And back to just sitting tall for a moment. Move your chin towards the ceiling and chin towards your chest, a little forward and back. And now turn left to right, just horizontal, jaw relaxed. And back to center. Going a little deeper into our shoulders here. We'll left hand behind the back, palm faces away. It's like you're trying to crawl your hand up your back. And right arm overhead to maybe touch fingers behind you or go in that direction. You could also use a strap between your hands here. And with this one, avoid rounding your back as best you can and keep your chin more level to the ground. So for me, I don't go very far with this, one of my tighter areas in my body. So anywhere in that direction is fine. I still feel plenty of a stretch without going really far. Just keep a tall spine. And we'll just let that go. Over to other side, the right hand up your back, palm faces away. Left arm overhead, palm faces your back, and hands towards each other. But if there's any sort of pinching or pulling in your shoulders, that's too far. But you will feel at least some amount of stretch here. And that's where we want to hold and breathe a couple breaths. And we'll let that go. Arms down. Now, one more thing here with the arms and the legs is we'll have the right knee, either right shin in front, crossing the legs, or stacking the shins like we did before, or right knee over left knee. It's Gomukhasana legs, stacking the legs and hips ideally touching the floor. If your hip comes off the floor, then just do one of the other variations of the legs. Now, so right knee's on top. So we'll do right arm underneath left, wrapping the arms like eagle pose. Either you grab your shoulders or wrap your arms as well. And catch your hands for Gomukhasana legs, eagle arms, Garudasana arms. Now you can have your elbows lift. Might feel better on your shoulders and back, or elbows lower. Either one is fine. It's different effects and different stretches. I like elbows lowering to open the space between the shoulders and the rhomboids. Couple breaths here. And we'll unwrap all that. Over to the other side. Same thing. Left knee on top, left arm underneath. Wrapping the arms. And there's an energetic effect of this too, when we're sort of wrapping everything, hugging everything in, sort of bringing energy more to your center, more centering, more grounding, less scattered, less anxious, less worried, more energy towards your center. And we'll unwrap either to sitting in meditation or down to your back, the last resting pose. If there's any last movements you want to do before Shavasana, you can do that as well. Take your time settling in here. You'll have a few minutes in stillness and quiet. Now, when you're ready, start to make any little movements you like. Eventually, come back up to sitting. And we'll close with the hands together at the heart to bow the mind to the heart and to each other. Thank you for practicing today. Namaste.